I'm Tony Ruiz, contributing editor of Gold Derby, here with Michael Learned, who stars as Catherine Dahmer in Dahmer Monster: The Jeffrey Dahmer Story. And Michael, I wanted to ask you, one of the things about Catherine is that she really does, I think, believe in Jeff. I think she believes in him, sometimes naively so. How did you see her?
As a woman in denial, we have a grandson living with us at the moment. He's studying to be a chef. That's my cat's tail. I'm sorry. And yeah, I came home one day after shooting, and I thought, what would I do if I discovered that this beautiful grandson of mine that I adore had another side to him that I didn't know about. And I think, when a kid is, as it's in the show, I don't know if this happened in real life, but in the show, there's a scene where he's dragging body parts up from the basement and dragging them through the kitchen in a garbage bag. Well, I don't know if you've ever smelled something dead, but I have. I lived on a farm, so there was sometimes a dead animal or something, and you don't drag a garbage bag full of body parts through the kitchen without somebody knowing that something. Oh, thank you so much, honey. You just heated up my coffee. Good husband. So, she was just in denial. She didn't want to know, I think. She just didn't want to know. It's the only way I could deal with it, is that I love my grandson and I'm just not going to deal with this.
Yeah, one thing that I always wanted, I find her voice fascinating. The voice that you kind of put on with her. How did you arrive at that particular voice? Because it's so distinct, it's so lived in.
Well, thank you. That's such a compliment. I don't even know how that happens sometimes. Sometimes a character just kind of, I think part of it was the accent, the Midwestern accent. And I was not consciously trying to change my voice. It just kind of just happened.
Do those types of surprises in building a character, do those types of things still happen for you?
All the time. I usually go into rehearsal not knowing a damn thing about what my ex-husband Peter Donut was a wonderful actor, and he would go into rehearsal knowing what sleeve his handkerchief would be in, or what kind of nails his character would have. And he loved mustaches and little glasses and little character things. I would just kind of go in like an open book and hope that something would reveal itself. And sometimes it did, and sometimes it didn't. But I often found, for me, the way I work is if I go in too prepared, I'm not flexible. So I'm kind of stuck in my preparation rather than being available for whatever is happening in that moment. And Evan Peters was so easy to work with. I mean, he played him. He didn't play any kind of sneakiness in the scenes with me. He was wide open. So there was nothing that any intelligent woman would have said, why is my grandson lying to me? He just played him absolutely as if he was innocent and true and just a nice little grandson boy, if you will. And then, of course, he was doing all this awful stuff on the side. And I tried to find out about her, but there was not a lot to find out. There were a lot of home videos of her holding her cat and walking around in a blue coat, and the hair, white hair that she had. But there wasn't really much information about who she was. But I did learn a lot from listening to him, Jeffrey Dahmer, the interviews with him, which were hair-raising, really.
You mentioned, Evan, you guys have that scene where this really intense scene where he asks Catherine about the mannequins, and it's such a high pitched, it's such an intense moment. What was the filming of that like? I mean, is it one of those things where you go into it and then as soon as they say cut, you just let it go?
I think so, in a way. It's called acting. I mean, I'm quoting Olivier or somebody who said it's called acting, but you kind of have to. It's like, I think sometimes when you're dealing with intense stuff on a set, there are more jokes and more kidding around than there might normally be, because it's almost a way of relieving the tension and the stress of what you're really dealing with. And so we were very present in the scenes together. And when there was a cut, Evan was always pretty quiet. I mean, he's not a excuse me, I don't know what's going on, but I have something caught in my throat. But he was always available just to kind of talk. And but he worked very hard at staying in character. I don't think he ever really left Jeffrey. I mean, he would be Evan, but at the same time, he wasn't completely who he is in real life. He's a very, very nice man.
Was the atmosphere on the set? You talk about that kind of the need for levity to let it go. Was that present on the set?
A little bit, but actually, what I found was that the crew was very very compassionate in a way. I mean, they were very, I think now, because I'm older, and even older in that, with the white hair and the schmata clothes. God, I'd love to do a show where I don't wear schmata all the time. But anyway, I think they were just very involved in what was happening. At least when I was on the set, they seemed to be very into whatever the scene was about at any given time.
I wanted to ask, there's a great scene, towards the end, where Catherine's like in bed. She's clearly nearing the end of her life, and the great Richard Jenkins is kind of. What do you think she hears him, or how did you kind of play that scene?
Well, I think they say the last thing that goes is your hearing. So yeah, but she kind of left. She developed Alzheimer's in the series. I don't know about in real life, but she developed Alzheimer's. So that's a way of just kind of leaving, I think, sometimes, probably not voluntarily. My ex-husband had Alzheimer's, a form of it. And so in a way, she left before she died. She was gone. She was literally not in her body anymore.
But it does give you a front row seat to a great Richard Jenkins monologue.
He's the best, isn't he? He's a wonderful actor and so much fun to work with. He really is.
Because Gold Derby is an awards website, you have the distinction of being, one of only two people to win the most lead actress drama Emmys, with 4. You're 3 for the Waltons and you're 1 for Nurse. And I'm curious how you, over the course of, you won them pretty much between 1973 and 1982. Over the course of that, how did your feeling about the Emmys change over time?
When you're not, I'll be honest with you. My first Emmy I went to with my son, Chris, and it was fun. There was a limo that picked us up. We drove around the neighborhood and waved to all the kids and all his friends and everything. It was a big hoopla for us. And I had no thought of winning. It never occurred to me that I would win. So it was just a matter of getting dressed up and going with my son as my date. And he was shaved and everything. We were looking good. And winning was just such a thrill. I mean, I can't even begin to describe it. It was so exciting and terrifying at the same time. Now I think it's it's an honor to be voted as outstanding in anything, but certainly by your peers, you know. And I will show up. I will go. I don't think I'm going to win this year, but I'll show up and just support whoever does. You know, it's I take it more seriously now. I used to laugh about awards when I was, you know, in the theater and all that. Oh yeah, award show. But now I'm much more humble.
Were you at the time? Were you very active in picking your episode submissions?
Not at all. No.
Oh, really?
No. And I'm not this time. I don't know. I I think my Harlan, well, who is a wonderful publicist, I think he probably submitted me. Yeah.
You know, it is the
My husband says I have to go online and vote for myself, and I said I was brought up in New England. You don't vote for yourself in New England. So he's standing behind me. He's sitting right here. You can't see him, right? Oh, there he is. That's my husband. And so anyway, I guess I have to do something, get on and vote or something. Not
well. It's interesting because it is, you know, we're coming up on, you know, it's the 50th anniversary of the Waltons, you know, the end of the Waltons' first season. And you know, we're actually in an interesting spot where the show is actually, you know, not only still finding new audiences, but you know, now there's the revival kind of series that Sam Haskell has put together, that Richard is narrating, stepping into Earl's shoes. And I'm curious, what does it mean to you to be a part of something that has that kind of longevity? Because that doesn't happen very often.
Oh, it means the world. I mean, to go to Bangladesh and know that people watch the show in Bangladesh, you know, people that were living in tents in the little village that I went to, and they knew about the show because and related to it because it's family. It's very rewarding. I mean, we have wonderful fans, and some of them have become very close personal friends. So I feel gifted in that way. Nobody's trying to pull our hair out or grab a necklace, you know, or they're all just loving, wonderful people who respond to. Some didn't have a happy childhood, so they get to vicariously experience what that could be like. And some did have a childhood. Their memories of their childhood is similar to what they feel in the Waltons. I even had I visited a hospital for veterans, and I went in and talked to this guy, and this was a long time ago, back in 73 or 4. And you know, I had short blonde hair and I was in blue jeans and whatever, and I'm trying to make conversation with this very unresponsive patient young man, and I sort of crept out of the room feeling very embarrassed, and the nurse came running after me and said, "Can you come back? Can you come back?" And he's crying. He didn't know who you were. He's crying. And when I went back in, he hadn't realized that I was the one who played the mother on the Waltons, because I didn't look quite the same. And this young man was just sobbing. He said, "You gave me the childhood I never had." So, you know, that's gotta make you feel humble.
And yet, one of the things I always loved about Olivia is that she was dealing with things that even in television then, I mean, I have such vivid memories of Olivia going through menopause and that being such a shocking moment for her.
Yeah, that was a lot of that was they were happy just having me in the scene. And I used to fight. I used to say, "Earl, it's so boring. You can't pay me enough money to just be standing ironing or to just spend 15 hours saying more coffee, John, boy, more coffee. It's making me crazy. And so God bless him and the future writers, Claire Peterson being one of them, who's become a very dear friend. She and her husband were writer producers on the show later. And they would really go out of their way to try to give me something to do. And I think the menopause idea was one of my ideas. I said, women go through this. Why not have Olivia go through it? And so they did.
I wanted to end with something that's very close to my heart, being originally from the San Francisco area, and that is ACT, is the American Conservatory Theater. Can you talk a little bit about what that theater meant to you?
Everything. It was where I learned how to act, really. I mean, I'd been to acting school. I'd done all the things you're supposed to do. I had worked a little bit off Broadway in New York, but to be able to be in a rep company where you can fail and still have another show the next night where you're a success, that's a gift like no other. So I owe everything to Bill Ball and ACT, and not just Bill, but all the artistic directors that came out of ACT.
Well, Michael Learned, it's been a real pleasure to talk to you, and I really appreciate your time. Everybody go to goldderby.com, make your predictions for the Emmys, and stay tuned for interviews with more contenders throughout the season. Michael Learned, thank you so much.
Thank you. I really like talking to you, and thanks for mentioning ACT. Oh my gosh.